What's up everyone, I'm AJ, and in this video we're going to clear up all the confusion on how to store your cigars. Man, that's delicious. Once you're really enjoying the fine leaf, you're going to want to pick up more than just one cigar at a time. I mean, there's just so many different brands out there, so many amazing blends out there for you to try. The only problem is, how are you going to store these cigars so they don't go bad? And there's so many different options out there for cigar storage. You know, you've got desktop humidors, cabinet humidors, heating and cooling humidors, and these things can get pretty pricey as well. Well, I'm about to share with you the most hassle-free way to store your cigars for both short-term and long-term storage. Plus, it's something you can get started with immediately. First, let's talk about relative humidity really quick. Having your cigars at the right humidity is the most important part of making sure those cigars stay tasty. If humidity is too low, cigars get too dry. When you light up a cigar that's too dry, it'll burn too quickly, which can ruin the whole experience. Because when it burns too fast, the cigar and the cigar smoke, it gets too hot. And instead of great flavors and aromas that's smooth and relaxing, you're going to get sharp and harsh smoke that causes a lot of throat irritation. And storing your cigars like this over the long term is going to cause them to get dried out and lose a lot of their flavor. But you can always raise the humidity back up, and you never know, they might still be smokable good cigars still and have some flavor to them. So it's definitely worth a shot. They're not totally done for if they get too dry over a long period of time. Now, on the other hand, what about when humidity is too high? This is even worse than having humidity too low, and I'm going to tell you why. Most problems with sitting and enjoying a cigar are from having cigars that are just too wet. And what happens is it won't burn steady and it won't stay lit. It'll have all kinds of different burn issues like canoeing or tunneling, and just the list goes on and on. And it just really sucks, when you bring it up for a puff and you get nothing because the cigar went out and you need to relight it again. Worst of all, and I think we all can agree on this, nothing kills the experience like not having a good draw with tons of smoke. When a cigar is too humid, you end up with a tight draw and you can't get a lot of airflow through it when you go to smoke it. Another thing that happens, and this was driving me crazy before I solved all my humidity problems, was when you get to that final third on the cigar, you get this bitter taste. And I mean like foul bitter, to where you can't even finish the cigar. I hated when this was happening because sometimes I'd still have half the cigar left and I'd have to chuck it because it just tasted so bad. And as for long-term storage, having too high humidity, that's where you have a bigger chance of getting mold on the cigars and just completely ruining them. So you see, having too high humidity is such a pain to deal with, and definitely worse than having humidity that's too low. Okay, so what's the ideal relative humidity to keep your cigars? All right, well, traditional belief is the 70-70 rule, which is 70 degrees Fahrenheit at 70 relative humidity. But aficionados these days, myself included, have been going to lower humidity levels. Cigars just smoke better when they're at lower RH. And actually, Steve Saka was on Cigars Daily's YouTube channel, and he mentioned that 65 RH is just about perfect. As I mentioned, I had so much issues with humidity levels, and so I was experimenting with a lot of different ways to go about this. But what I found was that under 62 RH, that's when I hit that threshold of being too low with humidity and just getting harsh and throat irritation and just losing a lot of flavors in the cigars. On the other hand, above 66, that's when I got all those problems that were driving me mad with having cigars that were just too wet. Where I ended up was at 65 and having to dry box my cigars. Dry boxing is just letting them dry out for either a couple hours or a couple days. To now, I switched everything over to 62, and I just basically have cigars that are ready to smoke them down to my fingertips every time, and have no issues. It also depends on your environment. If you're somewhere that's humid, then you want to be on the lower end for your cigars, and if you're somewhere that's dry, then you want to be on the higher end for your cigars. So we've been talking about humidity, but what about temperature? So with temperature, as long as you don't go above 75 degrees, you should be totally fine. Now, when you go above that, that's when you introduce the risk of getting mold on your cigars. But assuming your home is between 65 to 75 degrees, you're going to be golden. Okay, on to the method. This is what I call the KISS method, the keep it simple stash, aka in the cigar world, a Tupperdor, and you're going to see exactly why it's called that. Okay, step one, get a Tupperware container that suits your needs. I use a Sistema 236 ounce that I got off of Amazon. It has an airtight seal that will hold 70 cigars easily. I wouldn't go more than that, even though it could fit more. but I would keep it at 70 or less. Step 2, get some Boveda packs, go with 62 or 65, and go based off your environment that we mentioned earlier. And if you're not sure about the weather humidity where you live, just check your phone or the weather app, and that should give you the relative humidity in your area. And check Boveda's website to make sure you get the right amount and the right size packs for whatever Tupperware you end up getting. And step 3, gosh, things are just perfect when they're just 3 simple steps, right? Fill it up with some amazing smokes. Just make sure you don't leave it in direct sunlight, and you can put it anywhere you like. And yes, it's that simple. You don't need a cooler. As long as the temperature in your house is between 65 to 75 degrees, you're going to be fine. I also have a cooling humidor, and I keep that set to 68 degrees with 62 Boveda set up in there. And I can't tell any difference between those cigars and the ones from my Tupperdors. They both smoke just fine. The only maintenance you need to do is, if you don't smoke often, because these Tupperwares have an airtight seal, is about once a week or so, just crack it open and let it get some fresh air. That's literally it. Now you're ready to load up, store some cigars, age them, have some for yourself, for some friends, anytime you need. A few cool things you could add to the setup. I have these Spanish cedar drawers, which I absolutely love. They're great for organizing and protecting your cigars when you're in there rummaging to pick one out so you don't damage any of them. It also has a great aroma to it. And the cool part is they fit the Sistema Tupperware that I have, and you can actually stack one on top of the other, so you can fit 2 in there, have your own little custom setup. It's really nice. Believe you me, nothing beats the feeling of cracking open your Tupperdor and getting a whiff of that intoxicating aroma. I also keep a hygrometer in them. It's a great thing to have. Just make sure you calibrate it. Although, with Bovedas, the way they work is just phenomenal. So it's usually a set it and forget it type of thing. You never have to worry about it with Boveda packs, because they always keep the humidity exactly what the pack says it's supposed to be. If you guys want to see more on these little additions to my Tupperdor, or if you have any other questions, drop a line in the comments section. And thanks for watching, guys. Peace.